council meeting to order. Would everybody please stand for a moment of silence? Let's remember all those who passed away last month in the borough of Bristol. So let's go. Please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lutz?
Here.
Ms. Cullen? Ms. Trunell?
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Sabatini?
Here.
Mr. Plensky?
Here.
Mr. DiGiuseppe?
Here. Just for the record, Mr. Mussi is getting his treatment, and Mrs. Cullen called, and she's in bed with a severe migraine. At this time, before I open up public participation, I'd like to welcome Dr. O'Brien from Family Practice down the street. Dr. O'Brien, if you want to go to the podium and speak.
Thank you, and I want to thank everybody for having me here tonight. I came here tonight to specifically let everybody know that we are still practicing here in the borough. We've been in the borough since 1997. Dr. Davidson's office is the office that I took over, which originally was Dr. Sobel's office. So for many years, this family practice has been here in Bristol Family Practice and Medical Center. It's still in Bristol. We're at 424 Mill Street. We're still seeing new patients. We're open for business, and I want everybody to be aware of that because there was some rumors going around, some issues that maybe we are, maybe we're not, but we are. And I wanted to thank everybody here for letting me have the opportunity to talk and let everybody see me, not only here, but also on the TV.
And I also know you do a good job.
Thank you.
I'll attest to it. I see you every day.
Thank you, Doctor, for coming in and letting the borough residents know that you're still in business. Okay, at this time, I'm going to open up public participation. So anybody on this side of the room would like to speak on any item, please go to the podium.
My name is Jim Lake, and I'm here to speak on behalf of an association which I believe all of you are aware of. It's the Bucks County Association for Retired and Senior Citizens. It's located over here on Wood Street. As you're aware, that organization is in need of funds, but I don't believe that the residents of the borough are aware of that fact. And I would just like to point out to the residents that that organization is the sole organization that benefits generations that came before us. And those generations are members of the greatest generation. And for those that don't understand who the greatest generation was, it's the generation that went through the Depression and World War II. And if you look at the Iraq and Iran conflict, that's roughly been going on, I believe, maybe 8 years, or 8 or 9 years. The last that I read in the Courier about that conflict, it had claimed, I believe, around 4,800 of our military lives. In World War II, on D-Day, the invasion started at 6:15 in the morning. By noon, 6 hours during that time frame, over 2,400 American soldiers died on the beaches of Omaha Beach. So that generation, what they did for us, it's a debt we can never repay. And I just ask the members of this council here and also the citizens of Bristol to support an organization that deserves our gratitude and our respect and our support. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Lake, just real quick and briefly, we've been doing everything we can for that organization.
I realize
financially, and Mrs. Trunell and Mrs. Rodriguez are now on a board along with the mayor, so everybody's trying to do everything they can for them.
I realize that.
Thank
And I
you.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Mr. Pezza?
Hello, Greg Pezza. First of all, I'd like to say, obviously, in complete support of what Mr. Lake just said, it's kind of difficult to argue with those facts, considering they are the greatest generation. We should certainly do whatever we can do as a council to help them, so I appreciate those words. And to follow it up, it might sound less important, but kind of moving on to some of the business of the East Ward, and I'm sure Councilman Lutz would agree with this. I know you guys have a lot of things on the agenda that are of significance, but something that, when I was going door to door over the last few months, that a lot of people expressed serious concern about was speeding in the East Ward. I know speeding's a problem throughout the entire borough, but it's something we certainly would hope we could get a jump on, and that is particularly on Pond Street, Farragut Avenue, and Ratcliffe Street near Seabird Drive. Ratcliffe Street near Seabird Drive is basically a highway, and coming down Farragut Avenue when you're turning onto Pond, I don't know the reasons behind it, but people are just flying, and I would just hope that we could really kind of crack down on that. I know that machine that we have is there from time to time that lists people's speed limits, and I know it has some effect, but I really think speeding is something that can't wait a few months to be addressed, because it's dangerous. So,
Arnie, can you take care of that?
Sergeant Fate is already working up the detail as we speak. We spoke after last week's meeting, and we will have something. You're going to see some enforcement on 13, because we have to be on state roads on some of these mini grants that we have.
As long as you're on top of it, you don't...
Yeah, we'll be out there.
good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? Anybody on this side of the room would like to speak on anything? Okay, that ends public participation. Number 2 on the agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the minutes on 10/11 and 11/9, accept the treasurer's report for September, accept the police and DJ's report for October, accept the fire chief's report for October, accept the borough inspector's report for October, and accept the harbor report 10/31.
I have a second. Second by Ms. Rodriguez. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, on the work session of November the 9th, you had mentioned that we did receive $910,000 of that $1 million grant.
910, whatever it
I
was.
think you mentioned it at the work session. It's not
Okay.
in the minutes. That's number 1. And then number 2, what account was that deposited in?
What
account was it deposited in?
the capital improvement,
Capital improvement?
yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3.
Number 3, I'd like to make a motion to accept the auditor's proposal dated 10/24/11 from Hellman and Company to audit 2011's financial records.
I have a second. Second by Mr. Plansky. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I believe we received a letter from Mr. Holman last month indicating his fee for this service at about 20, was it 27,000? Some change?
The letter was in the packet. Let me get it for you.
Yeah, it was. I don't have that number in front of me, but
$19,558 plus what's required per the GASB 34 work was an additional $9,908.
so we're somewhere around 28,000 and change?
29.4.
I like to put a cap on it, that it costs not to exceed whatever he has in his letter, not 29. I mean, we don't have that in the motion, so there's nothing to prevent him from coming back and saying, well, it cost me more money, it cost me 35,000. I just want to put a cap on it.
He's been auditing every year, and he has never exceeded his proposal.
All right, well, I'm asking that there be a
And
cap.
his proposal this year is less than what was being paid like 6, 7 years ago under the audit.
So is it fair for this council to assume that that cost will not exceed his proposal?
I say.
I think it's a
what we're
reasonable,
voting on.
I think it's a reasonable expectation. If
Okay.
anything happens, I'll bring it to council's attention.
That'll be fine.
All those in favor? Opposed? Number 4.
President, I'd like to make a motion to ratify change order number 2, $6,500 deduction. Number 3, a $9,605 addition. Number 4, $18,420 deduction. And number 6, $9,709 additional.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Sabatini. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, we seem to have 4 items, and, personally, I prefer to deal with each one of these individually rather than collectively. I'm, of course, in favor of the 2 deductions, not necessarily in favor of the 2 additions, so I'm not quite sure how to vote on this.
You voted against the project, right?
Pardon me?
You voted against building the project.
I was never against the garage. I was always
Oh.
against the cost.
Okay, I ain't gonna get into this tonight, Jimmy.
So,
Do you, there's a motion on the floor, there's a second on the floor. However you want to vote is up to you.
okay, one other question I have. I pulled out the bids to study these 4 things. It's very difficult. There were 187 line items
Mhm.
on the contract. In the future, I'd like to identify these change orders by the number where they're located on our contract.
No problem. So you want to go on record saying you're voting for all the credits and you're against the
That'll be
spending?
fine.
That's fine. Any other comments or on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve change order number 5 in the amount of $28,407.25 for additional yard cleanup.
I have a second on Ms. Rodriguez. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman. Was this a requirement from DEP?
This is the DEP cleanup that we never finished.
It was part of the original.
This is part of the original cleanup that we never finished, that we all unanimously agreed to borrow $1 million to clean up the site.
Who's doing the work?
R&S.
Doesn't have to go to bid.
It's a change order, as it would have cost us more to bring Danucci back and set everything up than do it this way.
But it's not an item that would interfere with the progress of the garage.
Yes.
In other words,
No,
the work on the garage could go on
No.
without this being done.
no, it couldn't.
It can? Okay.
It couldn't. The debris was under part of it. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.